So today we're jumping into a really fascinating modern religious text. It's called The Chastisements and Prophecies of Lord RayEl. We're going to break down its core claims, its arguments, and the, well, very unique way it tries to blend ancient prophecy with our modern ideas of proof. What if divine love wasn't all gentle and comforting? What if it was actually a form of tough love? Now, that's the provocative question at the heart of this whole text. It introduces us to this figure, Lord RayEl, who is presented not just as some kind of savior, but as a loving judge whose main tool is, you guessed it, discipline. Okay, so to really get our heads around the logic here, we're going to follow the text's own roadmap. First up, we'll look at who this loving judge is supposed to be. Then we'll dive into the conflict it sets up between lies versus the truth, check out the prophecies and public proof it offers as evidence, explore the lessons through chastisement, and finally, the endgame, the final judgment. All right, section 1. Who exactly is Lord RayEl according to this text? And right away, you're hit with this paradox. He's presented as both a figure of love and a judge who uses discipline as his #1 tool for change. The text really plays up this tension. On one side of the scale, you have pure, unconditional love. But on the other side, there's this very clear, very stark mission to judge and correct a world that, from its perspective, has totally lost its way. And get this, to back up this idea, the text goes straight to the Bible. The argument it's making is that things like rebuking and chastising, well, they are acts of cruelty. No, they're framed as the ultimate expression of a tough, corrective kind of love. Okay, so this is a really important point. We have to understand how this text defines chastisement. It's not just about punishment for the sake of it. The goal is correction, it's about humility and restraint. A lot like how a parent might discipline a child, not because they're angry, but to teach them a lesson they really need to learn. So, if Lord RayEl is the judge, then what's the crime? Well, the text frames it as a kind of information war, a world that's just full of comfortable lies versus the hard truth that he supposedly brings to the table. So the text basically draws this line in the sand. On one side, you have these worldly preachers who it claims are just peddling comfortable lies with zero evidence. And on the other side, you've got Lord RayEl, who it says delivers not just the truth, but proof after proof to back it all up. So you've got to be asking, what is this proof the text keeps talking about? This is where the claims get really, really specific, laying out evidence that the source argues is publicly verifiable for anyone with an internet connection to go and see for themselves. The story, according to the text, really gets going back in 2011 with his supposed return. From that point on, it lays out this pattern. First, public warnings and threats were made. Then, according to the source, prophecies started to come true, which was meant to prove that the warnings were the real deal. And this is where it gets, really fascinating. The proof is this wild mix of the ancient and the super modern. It points to things like fulfilled biblical prophecies, but also to public threats that are literally timestamp verified on YouTube, and supposedly all backed up by public records. Okay, so what do these chastisements actually look like in practice? The text is very clear that they are not just random acts of destruction. Nope. Instead, they follow a very specific formula, and each one is designed with a very clear purpose in mind. According to this text, it's not random. Every single one of these interventions apparently follows a 4-step playbook. Step 1, a merciful warning is delivered. Step 2, the chastisement itself happens. Step 3, an undeniable clue is left behind to prove who was behind it. And finally, step 4, the whole point of the exercise, a lesson is learned. And really, this all circles back to the why. These events are framed as, educational tools. The goal isn't just to punish people. It's to force them to wake up, realize their mistakes, and actually learn from them so they don't perish without understanding why. And then there's this claim, which is honestly pretty surprising. The text says that these huge wrath of God level events are intentionally designed to have a very minimal death toll. This just reinforces that idea that the main goal here is teaching, not total destruction. So where is all this heading? Well, this final section of the text ties everything we've talked about together, the judge, the proofs, the chastisements, and it all leads to one ultimate purpose and a final call to action. So it all comes down to this. The text wraps up with another biblical quote that kind of serves as the final ultimate message. All of these events, The warnings, the proofs, the chastisements are meant to build up to one single thing, inspiring all of humanity to honor God before that final judgment finally arrives. So that's our look at the text, but it leaves you with this bigger question, right? A question that goes way beyond this one source and really speaks to our time. In a world that is just overflowing with information, with videos, with data, what do any of us, truly count as undeniable proof?